Hello, Jake with Wise Bear Creative.
And Ryan with Rygo Labs and Wise Bear Creative.
So today we want to talk about how do customers find your business online in 2025. You know, I think if you're a business owner in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and you're sitting here thinking that SEO means ranking number one in your keyword or your target market, we just need to talk because Google doesn't work like it used to. And in 2025, the game has changed more and more. Google's doing new updates. The rise of Google SGE, search generative experience, as well as they are penalizing you for just simply keyword stuffing. They want you to be an authoritative figure. Google is smarter than ever, and we're here to talk to you about what they're actually looking for, how to build that brand credibility, how to structure your website, and most importantly, how to optimize for SGE if you want your customers to find you.
This is actually something that I'm really excited about. In my 10 years in doing SEO, it's funny because in some way, everything has changed, but the core fundamentals behind what Google was aiming for didn't change. And it really comes down to their acronym EAT, experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And when you're checking all of those boxes, all of these AIs are more likely to want to serve you up in the results. So when you think about when your customers are trying to find you, generally, I find when I'm auditing most websites, people are doing almost like an industry insider brochure. It's very basic information. They're stuffing in keywords. They're doing a lot of tactics that kind of worked back in 2018, 2012, but theoretically shouldn't have worked. But they were basically trying to game the algorithm. Oh, if we put a certain number of keywords in here, Google's going to want a service. But with the rise of AI, these systems are getting a lot smarter, so it's actually able to differentiate, are you a real expert? Do you really care? Do you know what you're talking about? And then it's a game of actually matching that intent of what your customer is searching and then making it extremely relevant to the landing page that we're trying to get to show up on search engine results. And there's so many things like structurally that have changed would be the biggest. So like one big thing we've been talking a lot is like your site structure and how you're building it out and creating topical silos and FAQ schemas and breadcrumb schema. So these LLMs, large language models, including Google SGE, can parse the site and then see these different layers of your experience.
And really what they need is they need this clear path, right?
Exactly.
And I call them the Google gods, right? And basically the Google gods need a clear path once they find your website to navigate through all the different pages and make sure that you are that authoritative figure that they want to rank. You know, so if you're a customer who's like kind of like, well, is SEO really worth it, right? You guys just told me it's changed so much. You know, it's SGE and it's all these other breadcrumbs and all these other words that
many technical jargon.
Maybe you don't even understand. I mean, the answer is yes, but you need to make sure that you're partnering with somebody that's doing modern SEO, that's optimizing not just for the keywords, but for these long form keywords or these longer questions that people are asking in tools like Gemini are ranking for. So can you talk a little bit more about like how would a customer get into those AI results? Say they have a beautiful website, but they want to show up in Gemini or in that top spot. You know, what was a customer's first thing that they need to be doing?
Topical depth. So when I say topical depth, when you think about your website, maybe you have a product or a service, you have your core pages, you have your service pages. Obviously those want to be optimized in the traditional way. You have your metadata, you have all of that. But then you have to think, what are my customers asking? What do they want to know? How can they find me? And then you would expand on that. You might build like a child landing page that would target specific questions that somebody would ask relating to that service. If you're local, you might tie it back into, say, Grand Rapids. So like, what would a question that somebody who's looking for a plumber in Grand Rapids actually type into that search bar? And then you would answer that question. And Google has always been really big on user-first content. And the biggest problem that I've seen in all my experience with marketing is everybody's always thinking search engine first. And really you have to write for the people and the machine. So you have to think about the end user first. So you're answering their questions, you're helping them out. And then when it comes back to what's really changed is you could think of like your website, you could imagine like a tree or like a pillar, but you have like your main service page and then you have child pages that are expanding on the topics to support that service page. And then you could break away to the wider part of the tree where you're answering the minutia, the tiny questions, really, really extremely detailed, extremely targeted. You might put that into a blog, and then that works as a topical silo. And you actually want to leave code so that when Google or the LLMs are parsing your site, you're getting indexed, you can actually trace that trail and it can see, oh, you answered the high-level questions, you answered these mid-level questions, and you're diving into the minutia on this. Clearly, this is the expert. They have original ideas. And so really what it comes down to is, if you want to simplify it, are you really an expert and are you really helping the end user? Or are you somebody who's trying to game the algorithm? And if you want to game the algorithm, you are going to lose in 2025.
And that's why it's so important that your content is clear, concise, accurate, factual, and it's, very well structured. Of course, your website needs to be fast and mobile, and it needs to be cleanly built so the Google gods can follow that path and they can see it. But most importantly, right, it's that topical depth. It's like you need to be the authoritative figure. And you also need to have authority. So you need to make sure that your online reputation is good. You got mentions and backlinks and engagement, reviews on your Google business page, all these things. But most of all, your site and your SEO strategy just need to be worked together. I think one of the things that I see the most when I'm working on websites is things like this keyword stuffing or 100 location pages to do some sort of quick fix, and Google's onto it. They just don't reward it. In fact, they penalize it. So if you're looking for like that good SEO partner, some of the things that you can ask them is, do they even understand, Google SGE? Are they working with developers, not content writers, or do they have both, right? Because you need the expert. And again, that's why WiseBear partners with companies and guys like Ryan with Rygo Labs, because we want to make sure that what we're offering is the best quality that we can for our customers. So I'm not a writer. I can design a pretty nice brand and a pretty nice website. Ryan is a writer who only thinks in 6 months terms and can only think very linear. So that's why we work very well together. And you need to also make sure that the developers are willing to audit your current website, not just look at your top keywords, your H1s, but really look into the topical depth of each page. So making sure that they can even explain what EEAT is, the way Ryan just did, is just another thing that you can be asking for when you're interviewing different marketers to potentially help you with SEO here in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, and I think the core message to take away is, are you really contributing to your industry or your customers? It's getting to the place where you need to be more and more human. You need to have a real relationship. You need to actually be bringing something of value. And if your website looks like a brochure, if it's hard to read, if you're not explaining things clearly, if you're not helping people out, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's actually one thing that we talk about all the time, and how we like to do business. Generally, when we're working with you, we like to let you know what we're doing, we let you know why we're doing it, and it's a collaboration. And a lot of that actually comes back to that acronym EAT, because if we do work in a different industry, you're actually the expert at your industry. You know what you do, and we like to convey it like we're the amplifiers. We're going to give you the structure and we're going to help bring your message to people. But one thing I love to do with the writing is actually help bring out your expertise as a business owner. Like, how do you actually answer these questions? How do you actually talk to people? So when we produce content, a lot of times when we're doing the review process, there's all these opportunities for you to add your personal anecdotes, your unique differentiators in the way that you would solve a problem. And those are the things that are going to actually stand out to Google and to these LLMs. We're in an era where there's no shortage of content, and most of it's templated, most of it is beautiful structure, and it says absolutely nothing. So when you actually add to the conversation, when you say something, that's where you're going to stand out. And it's funny, I remember reading a book back in 2016, Digital Influencer by John Lincoln. That was his whole preference. If you're not adding to the conversation, you're losing. And that's one thing that I see stand out even more a decade later is if you're not adding to the conversation, you're literally adding to the noise. And there's a lot more noise these days.
Exactly. So if you're sitting there in Grand Rapids with a 5-year-old website, traffic is down, you got to know it's not just Google. Like, the whole way users are using Google and using the internet in general is changing. Let us take a look. Let us do a free audit. Let us do a quick strategy call. We can run the audit, map out the gaps, kind of see what the competitors are doing, and show you really what's working and what's not, and what's really getting ignored by these new AI tools like Gemini. Trust me, you don't need more noise. You don't need another location page. You need strategy. You need authoritative driven marketing.